11 of Wish by Barbara O'Connor. I am excited to get started today. I'm still missing you guys like crazy. I am hoping that this time passes quickly because I would much rather be at school right now reading to you instead of doing it over the computer. I am so glad for those of you that are choosing every day to participate in the conversation. It means a lot to me, and it means that I know that you're doing your job. In addition, this is just a place for us to chat. So I'm really happy to be reading for you. Let's go ahead and get started with chapter 11. The next day at school, it seemed like the clock had stopped and the day was stuck in never-ending torture of math and social studies in gym. Even lunch and recess were in slow motion. Finally, the dismissal bell rang and I hightailed it to the bus. I plopped down in my usual spot and waited for Howard. He must have been taking his own sweet time because the seats were starting to fill up, and the next thing I knew, Audrey Mitchell was making her way up the aisle, cutting her eyes from side to side, searching for a seat. I couldn't believe it when she sat next to me, propping her backpack between us so she wouldn't catch any of my cooties. "You can't sit here," I said. She made an ugly face at me. "Yes, I can." "No, you can't," I hollered. She flinched and gaped at me. "You can't save seats," she said. "That's the rule. Pineapple, pineapple, pineapple." But Howard's dumb trick didn't work because the next thing I knew, I had shoved her right off the seat and into the aisle. The minute I did it, I regretted it. Everybody liked Audrey. I ought to be bringing her candy bars and telling her how nice her hair looked instead of shoving her into the dirty bus floor. Luckily, Audrey didn't have a temper like me and Scrappy. All she did was yelp a little bit, dusted herself off, called me crazy, and moved to another seat. By the time Howard finally got there, my temper had settled down from a boil to a simmer. He dropped into the seat next to me. "What you fired up about now?" he said. I looked out the window and so he couldn't see my still red face. "I'm not fired up," I said. He pushed his glasses up on his nose. "Huh?" Then he dug around in his backpack and pulled out half a cheese sandwich. He took the cheese out, rolled it into a ball, and popped it into his mouth. Then he did the same thing with the bread, rolling it into a doughy ball. As the bus made its way through the streets of Colby, I thought about that trap we were going to make to catch Wishbone, and my simmering anger disappeared. In its place was a swirl of excitement. When we got to Howard's, Miss Odom was on the porch with Cotton, smiling and waving to the bus driver. Howard, Dwight, and me sat on the porch steps while she asked about our day. Did Miss Willoughby finally get that window fan fixed? Was Dwight's math test hard? Did the PTA sell cupcakes in the cafeteria again? Then Howard whipped some papers out of his backpack and thrust them at her, grinning. "Ta-da!" he said. She made such a fuss over those papers. You would have thought they were made of pure gold. I could practically feel my marked up papers jammed in the bottom of my backpack, weighing heavy on my lap. I wished I had a good one so I could say ta-da too. Howard didn't really need to be my backpack buddy anymore since I knew my way around school and I definitely knew the rules. Instead, he kept offering to help me with some of my schoolwork, and I always said no because what was the use? I wasn't even going to be at that school much longer, I reminded him. His face would drop and he'd say, "You never know, you might be." I ignored that and stuffed my sorry-looking papers into my backpack like I didn't even care one bit, but sitting on that porch with Miss Odom, I sort of wished I had let him help me some. After we had banana pudding for a snack, me and Howard went straight to the back of the ramshackle garage behind his house. I swear that garage looked like it was going to fall right over, tilting sideways with the door hanging off on one hinge. We stepped inside and Howard's daddy looked up from his workbench in the corner. When he stood up, I thought his head was going to go right through the ceiling. He was so tall. He had great big freckled hands and fiery red hair and twinkly blue eyes. He smelled like grass and sawdust and gasoline all mixed together. "Hey there," he said. His big booming voice bounced around that little garage, practically shaking the saws and shovels right off the walls. I'd seen him at church mopping his sweaty face with a handkerchief while he belted out, "When the roll is called up yonder," but I had never talked to him. Most folks were drinking coffee and chit-chatting in the fellowship hall. Mr. Odom and some of the other men were outside inspecting each other's truck engines or watching the teenagers play basketball in the parking lot. "Well, look at you," he said to me. "You know you're a spitting image of your mama." "My mama? I hadn't expected that." "I am?" I asked. "You sure are. Look just like her." "You mean Bertha," I said. "Nah, Carla," he said. "Your mama." "You know her?" "Don't really know her. I've only saw her a time or two." "In Raleigh?" "Nah, up yonder at Gus and Bertha's." He brushed the sawdust off the front of his shirt. "Seems like just yesterday, but I reckon it wasn't." "Oh," was all I could think to say, but my mind was racing. When had Mama been at Gus and Bertha's? How come nobody had ever told me that? "Old Howie here has been talking about you non-stop," he said, winking at Howard. I felt my cheeks burn. Then Mr. Odom said, "So, y'all gonna catch that mangy old hound, are you?" "Yes, sir." "That mutt's a rascal, I can tell you that. Been chased away from every chicken coop and garbage can here in Colby." "His name is Wishbone," Howard said. Mr. Odom chuckled. "Well, that's a fine name." "He likes me," I said. "Charlie's gonna keep him," Howard said, "but we have to catch him first." So Mr. Odom showed us how to staple chicken wire to wood and how to screw on hinges for a door, and before long we had a trap perfect for catching a dog. When Burl got home from his job pumping gas, he helped us to load the trap into the back of his truck and drove us to Gus and Bertha's. My thoughts kept flitting around all over the place, sometimes thinking about Wishbone and sometimes thinking about Mama being up there at Gus and Bertha's, but Burl played the radio so loud that none of my flitting thoughts had a chance to settle in one place. When we got to Gus and Bertha's, we set up the trap over by the bushes at the edge of the yard. Howard gathered leaves and branches to stick through the chicken wire, and Bertha kept Burl busy with all her questions. Did he think his mama would like some pickled okra from the garden when it was ready? Was Lenny still in the marching band? Had his grandma had that hip surgery yet? Burl said, "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am," "Yes, ma'am." Finally, me and Howard finished, and I swear you couldn't hardly see that trap nestled there in the bushes. I ran inside the house and got a pie tin of table scraps I'd been saving, a piece of bacon, a biscuit, some tuna noodle casserole. I pushed the pie tin way back in the back corner of the trap and said, "All right, now all we have to do is wait." All right, friends, that wraps up Chapter 11 of Wish by Barbara O'Connor. My question is, when do you think Charlie's mama was at Gus and Bertha's? Do you think that Charlie's mama planned to have her move in with them? I don't know. All right, friends, stay kind, stay patient, social distance, because I want to see you sooner rather than later. All right, bye, friends. I'll see you next time.